Meeting to order. Kelly, please call the roll.
Mayor Randy Burke.
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Here.
Commissioner Darren Indovino.
Here.
Everyone, please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any desired changes on the agenda from the commissioners?
No.
There's not much room there
Do you want
to
to
negotiate.
table the array?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mayor Randy Burke.
Yes.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Yeah, aye.
Commissioner Darren Indovino.
Aye.
Was there a second?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Thought I heard
I
it.
didn't hear it, sorry.
It was either that or a
Bad
grunt.
I heard a grunt,
Okay.
yeah.
We got one item on the agenda today, and this is about the change of government ordinance. Now, we are going to the people who will write our Constitution in a charter form of government. They are a commission, but this is different from other commissions, not like the Planning and Zoning, 353, or the TIF, where we appoint individuals based on their qualifications to work on specific problems. This is an election. So 13 people will be on this by election, which means they're going to have to get a petition, and I don't want to steal anyone's thunder here. They got to get a petition, and they have to be elected by the voters of Monett. Now, because of that, there are election rules that apply, and they're different from appointment rules. That's pretty easy. We know some of us are very familiar with those. But on top of that, there is state law that governs additional rules that apply to this charter commission. Now, we're not doing anything, we're not inventing the wheel here by doing it. Other cities have done it, but my guess is that no one in Barry or Lawrence County has ever gone through a charter government. I don't think so. For that reason, we've got both clerks around. If you can introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Tammy Reedy. I'm from Lawrence County. And Joyce Innes, Berry County Clerk.
Okay, they're here. Now, remember, the counties run our elections. Okay, so they're here, so we make sure we get all the rules out there correctly, and we pass it by ordinance next Thursday. So everyone knows what the rules are. Okay, and so I appreciate you being here because we want to hammer those out. We're kind of driven by an election schedule, and that's because Mickey and Holly haven't worked very hard, but I'm teasing, of course. But the point is we have a timeline, so it'll be a first and second reading at the city council meeting next Thursday, unless there's any objections that come up from the commissioners either today or then. So that's what we're here to achieve. And who do I turn to? I'm tired of talking, so. Holly,
So one of the unusual aspects of the charter process is how it's done. So it's created by the Constitution, the ability to do that in the Missouri Constitution. And you first ask, and you've passed the question of, shall we consider it? If that passes and at the election in April, then at that same time, we choose the 13 people who will write that charter. And so it's very different in kind than anything else that you do. Everything else is step by step, small steps. You are entrusting. So those 13 people you are asking from the public to come and be put on the ballot. No different than when you as mayor and commissioner were put on the ballot for an elected position. Except you guys just go and say, I want to be. And in this situation, you have to have a minimum number of signed people on the petition to be able to be put on the ballot. Because this was created by the Constitution, because this is, it's not highly regulated, there are missing gaps. So there aren't clear parameters, and that's why we've asked to have this meeting, is so that we have clear parameters so the requirement is that you have those 30 days before the election. But that's not reasonable because the reality is you have to create ballots. They have to get those ballots printed, and that's not a cheap job, is it? They also have to advertise. So if you left it open to what can be up to 30 days, you would run into major expenses, and they would not come to visit you again except to yell at you because it makes their lives completely miserable. So because of all of the election requirements, it's best to have an ordinance that makes it clear to everyone so somebody doesn't just thumb through and go, oh, I've got 30 days. It says 30 days before the election. I won't do it. So it's part of the reason we're doing this in the meeting and spending the time to talk it through and think it through rather than just pop up an ordinance that Holly thinks is best, right? After consulting, I never do these in a vacuum. We want to discuss and understand and let the public understand what it takes to be on this. Mm-hmm. So this is a position which is created for the city. And so our belief is that you have to be a resident as a requirement for the election.
Within city limits or within zip code?
City limits. So
okay,
that's residency.
Okay.
So we will make that clear so that everybody understands, because it's a big challenge right now. Right. I'm sure you guys are very aware of it and hear about all of the lawsuits and all of the challenges. So that's nothing new for all of the clerks in the room. The issue that and the legislature's already making some changes in that, and I expect we'll see even more changes. So last year, the legislature went in and said, if you're a fourth class city and you have less than 3,000 residents, you can count that residency by owning property or a business in. So it's not a residency, right? So we're seeing that because across the way, we're struggling with getting people willing to put in the kind of time and effort and knowledge that's required to do what you're asking them to do. Yeah. You're asking them to create your government. Right. Big lift. Now, good thing is there's a whole bunch of them out there. You've got great options to look at, and so it's going to be kind of overall decision making in what direction you want to go. But the commissioners for the charter will be the ones who draft. And so it's, as we recall when we talked to West Plains, your first 3 months are intense meetings, intense reading, intense thought process in deciding how that is. So some people may think, well, I'm not really a leader, right? I want to be a part of it. I want to understand it. And I do, but I don't want to have to make all of the decisions on my own and lead everybody else. You don't have to be a leader to be a commissioner. Okay. You guys, because of the fact that you are the very last commission form of government in the state of Missouri, not that somebody else can't opt into you, but you guys are the last remaining that we talk about every time we talk about cities. And so you're used to, as commissioners, you are leaders. But I hope that the message gets out to the public that it doesn't just take leaders. It takes people who are listening, who are thoughtful, who can participate, and who can vote. It's a big struggle across the nation to get people who will give the time, who will commit to it, and then actually do it. Mm-hmm. Right? Correct. I may think, woo, no problem. I'm going to get all my friends to sign. I'm a senior. I'm 18, going to run. So then when I do that, I still have to go to those meetings. I have to vote. So encourage people who are both leaders and a variance of experiences, but you want to have, this is highest vote getter. And it's highest vote getter who had a petition. So it's not a write-in option. Right. So that's part of why we're doing this so publicly now, because we really need those people to begin that petitioning process to get that certification for the petitioning. Traditionally, for local elections, which are in April, You count back, and right now it's to December 9th, 8 a.m., and it goes through December 30th, because the legislature has not listened to our wonderful clerks and have not changed that, but we're hoping to, right?
Yes.
So is it next year or the next? It's on a holiday.
I think it's.
I know
It
it's
was
coming
last year,
up.
wasn't
Next year. Well, it kind
Last
of
year
fell-
was
it
on
31st.
Eve.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was New Year's Eve last year. But there's one that will be on Christmas.
Yep.
It will
And
be
that-
on Christmas.
And because of the way the law is written, you must, Kelly, must be here at 8 a.m. on the opening day to receive those. And she must be here at 5 p.m. on the closing day, which this time is the 30th. So the 2 days you guys will be closed during that range of Monday through Friday will be the 25th and 26th. That's something we'll put in this ordinance so that everyone knows not to come on the 25th or 26th. So if they're like going out of town, oh, I'll just wait, I'll come in after Christmas. They don't. So we're giving everybody that notice ahead of time, and that will be in the ordinance that you're getting. The qualification requirements will be in the ordinance.
Good.
And the specific number, have we gotten that number? Do we know the number for the petition? So
10%.
it's from the next preceding election, which was in April of 2025. But you guys did not hold an election in 2025. So you go back to the prior election, which I believe we determined was you had no special issues in between.
Right.
So it would be the April 2024.
Okay, we went with November of 2024.
You had an
because
issue
you
on
had
the ballot.
issue-
Oh, we did have, that's right. There was a
It's an
November
issue,
issue.
so it's in
That's right.
November of 2024.
Okay, so
Big
election.
number now.
It's a bigger
It's
number.
a much bigger
number.
Actually, for mine, it was about the same.
Well, what
Really?
is
Well,
what is the number?
the number of signatures needed, because I had 2,000, Orange County had 1,397. The total number of signatures required is 68.
So everyone who wants to file has to get 68 names.
No matter the county they reside.
No matter the count.
Of residents,
Correct.
to be clear.
Right.
So then, and those are checked on the petitions, but we accept, because of the way the weird laws are, we just accept those petitions. Kelly does not have the authority to say, no, that's insufficient.
So there's no
There's-
verification process?
There is a verification process.
Okay.
It's
That's
just
where we come
Kelly doesn't have it. That's
Got it.
why we love them,
Okay.
and we greatly appreciate them helping us with it. And so that's not a small number, right? That's a pretty significant. It needs to no duplicates. It needs to have the documentation. We have the form already. I would recommend that it say that people can begin in the ordinance on the day the ordinance, it's 10 days. Your ordinances go into effect 10 days after signed, right?
What do you mean no duplicates? Can I sign more than one petition or no?
Yes, you can't sign the same petition twice.
Okay, all right, that's
But
right.
each
That
petition stands
surprisingly,
alone.
if you don't have experience with petitions, it's amazing the issues you have with
Who clarifies
petitions.
that? Does the clerks clarify that?
They ultimately have the power. The city clerk does not have the power. And so, and then you turn in the list after the 30th, and I didn't check that date. It should be sometime in January. That's when we will have an idea of who it is on the ballot. It is the highest vote receiving, like a school board election, highest vote receiving people, first 13. And because you're split between two counties, I guess in theory, one county could determine over another, but it's the total votes within the city. And so you do that because at the election, if it passes the question and everybody says, yes, let's explore, we're not voting for, we're just saying, yes, let's explore charter form of government, then those 13 will be sworn in and they will be the commission. To be clear, all costs of this are borne by the city. So you have to provide the meeting place and those aspects.
And the candidates file at large. They're not filing
Correct. There's
based
no
on their
yep.
county.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's why I was saying, like, I could go just to Berry. I can't. I'm not a resident. But if I were a resident, I could go just get Berry County. It doesn't matter.
Right.
They do have to be Monett residents. Monett voting age.
What happens if you don't get 13 candidates?
We don't expect that will happen. We are certain that won't happen. There are means and mechanisms that I believe we can make happen. We're praying that won't happen, which is part of the reason why we're doing this now, is that people would be willing. You will want to be thinking through what availability, because that's going to affect who's going to be willing to do it, right? If you say your meetings are going to be, like we only have a room for you at 8:00 on Mondays, you're going to kick out any teachers, right? So traditionally, those are held in the evening. Now that then affects your evening people. But think that through. It is heavy lifting in the beginning, I would expect, and you want to be able to, when you're encouraging people to get those signed petitions and to run for commission, they need to understand it's a heavy lift to begin with. So if they are going on a 2-month cruise, probably not the person who should, from January to February. If we all recall, when we were in here talking about this, West Plains said they had theirs pretty much drafted. And so to think forward, your commission meets, decides form of government, they vote on each aspect of it, and then here's your charter, right? And then they present that to the board, the council, and the council votes to put it on the ballot. So in West Plains, and what I expect is about right in timing, the first 6 months, and it probably won't even take that long, because we've been able to see what works and doesn't work for others. And so Nixa is the last city that became a charter city in 2009. So, and I can't remember, West Plains, I think, did it in 2008.
2013.
Okay, 13.
And then who is it, Ozark doing it now? That is doing it now?
They've had meetings. And I think they're going forward, but they're not as far along as you guys. Okay. I don't think they've passed the ordinance yet. So there's not a lot of there's a lot of different cities at your size, and probably like demographics that you can look at to see. Like Nixa did a pretty major rewrite in rethinking theirs, and you will start with that thought process, which is your charter needs to be your basics. To change your charter, it's a vote. To change your ordinances, it's the body making the vote. Mm-hmm. So you want your hard, fast rules that you're really, really sure you want in your charter, because your ordinance then fills that in, as does your policies, as does your procedures.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So you're thinking really high up here, but that doesn't mean you only need history and political science people on your commission. You want a good variety, but you want at least 13. It'd be lovely if you had 20, right? So you're really having a decision to be made. But that's our push. I would strongly encourage those who are wanting to run for the commission that they start thinking that through, talking about it. If they're raising funds, they have campaign requirements.
Yeah, do they fall under all the same requirements with the Missouri Ethics Commission and such?
If they raise funds. But this really is very grassroots.
Okay, so, I thought that was required also if you don't raise funds.
You don't have to have the reportings the same based on how much, and we'll have all of that information for those who, when they come in and they turn in their petition to Kelly will give them that information. Because I can go and get my petition, but it doesn't count until I turn it into Kelly
Right.
between the 9th and the 30th.
Right.
She will then, so that's when they begin their candidacy, and she will then be able to give them all of that information
Right.
on those requirements and have those on a piece of paper.
Okay. So I thought there was still a personal financial disclosure that had to be filled out.
You have the conflict, and so I can't answer that right now, but I don't think they have to, because you should have the, do you biannually adopt the conflict of interest so that it's only who your designated are?
Can't say we
Okay, so we'll go into those in depth, and I don't really want to talk about that rule because I find that when I say these things in meetings, people maybe don't hear it the same, and then they go, "Well, I was told." So that aspect we like to have on a piece of paper.
Yep.
So there's no question about what Kelly doesn't want any problems. They don't want any problems because let me tell you, they always go to them and go, "Yeah, that's what the city told me." Right? Do you guys hear that? all
So
the
if we
time?
get 20 candidates in
Yes.
January that have been certified and they're good candidates, can the city host events in February and March to invite those 20 candidates just for an information meeting? Can the city do that?
As
Or does that
long
need to be
as it
another
is,
organization?
so it has to be very neutral, and we have to be careful about that, right? Because it's and other cities have. West Plains did it. They printed because it's their responsibility. It's the city's obligation to host this election and all of this process. And so in West Plains, they did a trifold that had the pictures and a paragraph about each person. They hosted a night. It has to be super rigid, right? Because you could have people, it's an if. You could have people who are against a charter form of government.
Okay.
And so this is an if. If we choose to have a charter, these are the people who are running. We want them to have a moment, maybe. And so it needs to be structured. But you absolutely can. I would fully encourage all other organizations in the city to do that as well. Getting this information out is very important. It is, you do not get any more grassroots than this in writing your own government.
And hopefully long lasting.
Right.
That's why the severity, the
you
seriousness
don't,
of
yeah,
this is
your
strong.
charter, generally 5 to 10 years, and most people say it must be done in 10 years and they wait 15. Now, Nixa did theirs relatively quickly because they had some tweaks they needed. West Plains, I think, took 11 years before they did some tweaks, and they talked to us about their tweaks. And
those tweaks, are they in the form of amendments? They have to be voted on by the voters.
same process.
Okay.
Same process. So understand, to do amendments, now you will write that in your charter. So your charter won't be the same in how you choose your commission. You set that up. So understand, as a charter form of government, the benefits are you create a system that you regulate in a better way than you do. The reason we don't see commission forms of government, which were created because, Nathan Nicholas told me this, were created because of a terrible disaster in Texas.
Galveston, Texas.
Yes.
Right.
And the hurricane came through and it just demolished everything and a lot of people.
Right.
And so they thought, all right, we're just going to go, you're smart on this, you're going to do this. You're smart on, and people were like, well, that's a great idea. And so but because of transparency and sunshine law, you guys are so hampered in ways that other cities have been.
So I'd like to step back a little bit, and this might be just a semantics issue, but oftentimes you hear charter form of government, and that's not accurate, right? It's a home rule. It's a charter. The form of government is separate from the charter. The form of government is defined within the charter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that we all understand that and that the community understands that it is not a charter form of government. It's the
the-
charter,
The power is in the charter.
right?
And that charter and that city can do right now, you only get the powers given to you in the statute for a commission form of government, like the 10 days.
Third class city.
Right.
Yeah.
But because you're commission form of the third class city, you have some other quirky little things that other third classes don't have.
Right.
You can pick the best of every or none form of government in your charter that sets out. Now, you still can make changes within, so your charter may say you have to have certain directors. Back in the day, a lot of cities had very defined, this is a director for this and that. And we've found that what used to be public works is not just public works, right? So we like to have those more malleable. Now, everybody needs an attorney, thank God. So everybody needs a clerk, right? How your clerk is chosen, thank God, absolutely. And everybody needs, at a size that you are, a city needs a professional executive.
Correct.
So those generally come into what is defined within the charter. But how your governing body is called, I've seen charters that did the amendment, and I can't remember who it was, but they did the amendment because they created in their charter, they called their board a board of aldermen. So the body, and then they decided they didn't like that. And so that was one of their amendments. So they had to go back and vote. So the work the 13 people do is huge.
It is.
You have to think forward and back and currently. But they're going to be led meetings. You're going to have documentation created. We're going to make sure all of that support is in place. So it's not that you're going to be typing and creating and writing it from scratch. Very little governments are done from scratch anymore. There are a lot of language that you have to put in because you need it for protection. You need it for clarity. You can do, as a charter city, anything that the legislature has not said you can't do. And they've done that more so in the tumultuous relationships between City of Kansas City and City of St. Louis and the legislature, right? So we see these a little more, but you will see in statutes. So I used to work for the City of Kansas City. We were a city not within a county of a population over 350. And St. Louis, you will see in a lot of legislation, a lot of our statutes, a city of a county over 900,000. And then they lost 600,000 people. So the courts have defined that if the statute says if you meet that, then any other charter city can do that. So the limitations we used to believe we had for other charter cities are not there. You get really creative options that are given to cities, to charter cities, and are not prohibited because you're not limited by your statute that created your city in dealing with things like economic development, in things like your ways to deal with nuisances, your ways to keep track of or encourage other types of development. You have a whole lot of greater open field, if you will. Think of it as an open field, and you can plow through it and take pieces from other people who are successful. So you're not starting from scratch, but you are, right? You're saying, here's our preference. You're going into the ice cream shop with 32 flavors, and you're deciding which is the best flavor. But really, really important. Yeah, well, we'll give out some. Yeah, we do have taste because you can look at how it worked in other cities. And that's the benefit of our office, because our office, we have 100 cities. Yeah. So we've been there, done that, seen it. And so we can tell you, okay, here's the positive of this, here's the negative of it. And then the city decides. bear in mind, charter has to be voted on. Ordinances are voted on by the body created in the charter, which is a great distinction.
So when you talked earlier about once the charter is created, it comes back to the council to be approved and placed on the ballot. It's not that we are approving the content of the charter. We're just approving for that to be placed on the ballot.
So in a way, you're approving the content of the charter because it's that version that goes on the ballot.
So we can make amendments?
So there are not,
Or decline it?
So likelihood is
I
that
don't
the
think we
three
can
of
do
you will want to be commissioners, and so you probably would have already been in that discussion.
Okay, so that's another topic.
The experience is that these groups of 13 elected people are able to come up with something, and as real life experience with West Plains, they explained to you, everybody was kind of in agreement on that. And so it wasn't a matter of, we need these tweaks, right? Because that's what happens during that initial meeting and that heavy pickup. We like this, we don't like that.
They're open meetings, so they're going to know what's going on the whole time.
Absolutely. Anybody can come to them, but they would not be participatory.
Right.
So they are open meetings in that people can come to them, but they should not be run where I don't feel like getting the petitioners to sign, but I'm going to bark in here. You really have lots of work to do. Not to say you can't have town hall meetings. Not to say you can't have, as a commission, have times where, what are your thoughts? But that should be happening with the commissioners. That's another thing to think about. You're going to have commissioners who aren't politicians, hopefully. Right? Not to say that politicians are bad, but I'm saying you need people who this maybe isn't their normal experience. Mm-hmm. And in those people, they are encouraged to talk to those 68 people that signed their petition, at least, sure. Right? But the people that are involved in the clubs, churches, organizations, workplace, what's your thought on this, right? So those ambassadors are coming in and drafting much like our constitutional drafters did. And they got it done. And by golly, we've kept it for quite some time.
And the charter commissioners will even meet with certain staff, right?
Yeah. I mean, no, our office is very big on lecturing. Understand who is doing the work day in and day out, right? It's your employees. You all know that and have appreciation for that. I know I've heard it 100 times from you guys. And so, yes, understanding that aspect, but charter is up here.
Correct. Yeah, I was just going to say.
It is not down here.
Right.
And so, but they're going to have times where, especially, Kelly is going to have the experience where she is involved with other city clerks. And she's going to have things to say that, well, this is a problem. I have a jurisdiction that they have this problem on a regular basis. And so, yes, in that respect, but we need to think of charter as very much like your Constitution. We don't like to tweak it a lot. Now, I know with petitions, there are tweaks, but charter doesn't get changed by petition. Charter gets changed. Now, I take that back. You could create...
Correct.
A petition. I will tell you, there was a movement, I would say, in the last 5 years, more petition opportunities. Now we've seen that because it's based on voter turnout and people still don't really turn out all the time, that we end up with some more difficult drafters because petitioning, that person is drafting and that's not their skill level.
So that's what a charter affords the community, is the ability to petition any topic, also to create a referendum. And
if you
want to understand that.
Yeah, so it is big government. It is, and there's really about 4 or 5 variations of how it works at a local level, because you're still not going to have full-time paid politicians in the body. That's not an option.
Yeah.
We see monies tighten and tighten and tighten with cities, and cities having to do more for their citizens.
Right.
And so that change will not be there. So being able to answer those needs by a body that's volunteer. It's and really, really, really hit home to the people you're talking to and encouraging this process. The first 3 months is a booger. It's reading. It's reading stuff that, while I find it enjoyable and fun, maybe not everyone else does. But it will be in a form, and this has been my experience with everything I've done with Monett. You guys are so good about hearing each other and hearing the ideas and helping each person to understand what we're talking about. And that's super important. And that will be, while we see some really ugly governments right now, I believe that will be the tone and tenor of your commissioners. Because they've got a really cool non-political responsibility. I'm creating the city. That's pretty cool. That's something you can tell your kids about and go on history day to the political science classes and go, hey, I was on the Charter Commission. Here's what I learned. And so it's a great opportunity. It's a great moment. And you have to help financially. We're asking you as a body to provide whatever those finances would be for the time they swear in. Then, if, say, yes, there is a vote of yes, shall we form a charter commission, and we get our 13, and they create the charter, and then there's a time period, as West Plains did, where you're educating everybody about the charter and why we ended up at the point that we ended up. Then there is, again, that preparation we have to do for the transition. Because charters aren't effective the day of the election,
Right.
and you have to have transition aspects of it.
Yeah. So in Nix's, they built theirs in that transition.
I think they did it in June or July,
Yeah.
but so your request as a body then, not only, yes, put it on the ballot, so you're putting it on the ballot, you have to, you're the only ones who give it to them.
Yeah.
If you don't give them the language, it never gets on the ballot.
Right.
So you guys call the election, and that issue is on the ballot. There is an ability to break it down. Some do amendments and they don't do them as a whole. They do them broken down. There's a theory you can do the charter as broken down. I don't know that anybody's done it that way, but that goes on there. And then you guys have to prepare for, if it happens, that transitional aspect.
Yeah, because that same election now, because we're talking about April 2027, that's
Yes.
the same election that our terms would be
Yes.
No,
expiring.
28.
28.
Forgive me. Yeah, forgive me. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought we covered that. I
Yeah.
thought we had you guys still
I-
here and that I was right on the body.
I was thinking the school board terms
Make it hard
3
for
years.
me.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Kelly, did you get the term booger that Kelly used in the?
Yeah, I got it.
This is all good discussion, but what I really want to get to is what has to be in the ordinance.
what has to be in the ordinance is clarity. And so we will have in the ordinance that you are calling the election. We've already said that you're calling the election, so it's kind of a repetition because you called the election to ask the question and for the election of the 13 highest vote getters. This is setting your parameter. So we'll recite that, right? That will be your whereases. We like to let everybody know where we're at. And then we are setting the time period. We're setting the rules for those for the commission. There's nothing else you have to do with the question. The question is a yes or no.
Right.
The question has to be exactly what the Constitution requires. That's it. So it's only whether people vote yes or no on that. But you do have to create some clarity in those 13 people, which will be clarifying that you will open it on December 9th at 8 a.m. for petitions to be turned in, and that you will close the petition candidacy time period at 5 p.m. on December 30th.
Okay.
It will say that you have, you are available for filing those candidate petitions between the time period of December 9th to December 30th, with the exception of December 25th and 26th, and that it's between 8 and 5. You will clarify what the candidacy is. That must be a resident, so people, because they can't look it up. Telling you, you're not going to find that. So what they have to do is look at the election requirements, that you cannot be an elected official without being a resident.
And the people who sign the petition also have to be a resident within the city limits.
So we're going to lay those rules out. We're just kind of reciting those rules. But what you're doing is making it clear. You're giving a map that is official from the city of how will I, right?
And
how
will the number
will I become, and the number that
of
of the required
signatures?
signatures.
Okay.
So we'll recite in the whereas how many in that election. And then in your section, it will say that you must receive 78 signatures, which must be turned in on the adopted form. 68, did I say
68?
78? Yeah, it's 68, sorry.
And
There you go, I'm just checking.
When
to
do
make
you
sure
have to
everybody-
put in the petitions?
Starting on December 9th at 8 a.m., you can begin
I
candidacy
understand
filing.
that. When's the last date? This December,
December
30th.
where people have to have petitions signed by 68 people.
Turned
By
in.
that's the deadline.
Right.
Yes.
And
And
turned
not
in to Kelly.
Got it. And
Well,
then
this-
it's the verifications done after that.
Will it specify who is eligible to sign that petition? If they have to be 18 years of age, if they have to be a registered voter, if they have to.
I think it says that on the form,
Usually in the
but
header of the petition.
yeah, I thought it was on the form, but yes. Ultimately, as a petition getter, and unfortunately, I worked for an entity that had lots of petition challenges and litigation. It must be a resident of the city. I don't believe they have to be. Yeah, maybe they do have to be a registered voter. Yeah. So they can go, and because we're still open for registration. When does registration close for the April ballot?
6 weeks prior to that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Pretty quick.
So plenty of time
Oh,
if
yeah.
you want your 18-year-old to sign your petition, to march them down if they didn't check the box to mutually get a license. You can tell I just did this with my kid, and register to vote. So you can get those people registered, but they have to be a registered voter to be on the petition, and that's on the header of the petition. And we'll make sure that those clarifications. Understand, you can get 278 signatures, right? You can get, and I encourage people to
You need to
get
a
more
little bit
than the
more in case
68.
it doesn't pass. You gotta have
Because
more than 68.
I may not be the smartest person, and I may go, sure, I'll sign yours, and I'm actually not a qualified resident, not a qualified registered voter, and now you've lost that one, and so you would not be a qualified candidate. So there is a lot in. So I grew up when the Hancock Amendment petition went around, and went with my parents. So it was a great opportunity as a kid to get how this petitioning happens. And one of the aspects and why people appreciate petition form of referendum is that it gives you the one-on-one with the people you're asking to sign. So I'm asking you to sign to give me the chance to be on the ballot, but you don't have to vote for me.
So I've had a couple of, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
Well, I'm saying we have to have a petition. We need to know what a petition looks like. So,
Oh, we have a form.
We've got,
We've already
Okay.
got the form.
and we got to get that out right away.
yep. So I've had a couple of city employees ask me, can they run?
That was a
If
question I was
they're
gonna
if they're
ask.
live in the city and they're registered voters, sounds like they
Okay.
can.
The second thing is I want to make sure council understands we're planning on doing a double reading of this ordinance on November 13th. So it's a double reading that night so that we can get this timeline.
And I don't think it's controversial. Part of the reason I asked that we have this meeting and that Mickey and I talked about doing this as a general meeting before we present the ordinance, because time is of the essence, but it gets the word out. And we really want to get the word out to get people excited about an opportunity. Now, you as a city can give factual information and put that out. You as individual humans still have your First Amendment rights, right? You just can't use the copier here. You can't do those things. But you absolutely, when you're out of this building, you can go talk to the reporter and say, I think having a charter form of government is the best thing ever or the worst thing ever, and have that aspect of it. But really the push is we don't want a controversy by not having 13 people on the ballot. And it would be lovely to see more than 13 people desiring to be a part of having a say.
So in these parameters, these boxes that the candidates have to check, are we legally able to specify that not only do they have to fulfill the residence requirement, but also that they have to be in good standing? Is that meaning that they have their taxes paid, that there's no legal judgments against them?
I have not double checked, but
Okay.
I believe that is a mandate for an elected.
Okay.
And so that's why, the other reason why, when I talked to Nathan, who's our guru in our office on this stuff, is yes, these are all the rules when I pull them from all the different places and they would apply. But if I'm Joe Schmo, I'm going to look at, I got Google, right? I'm going to Google it, and Google's going to tell me I can get a petition 30 days before. So we are creating a situation where a person doesn't have to have an attorney to figure it out for them, and everybody knows, and that can be your kickoff when you approve this ordinance as to what will go into play. The issue is the 10 days. You guys aren't emergency, and so the 10 days it goes into effect. Bear in mind, everything you are saying, we need by December 9th.
Okay, so we don't need it for the resolution of the ordinance that we're passing next week.
It will be in your ordinance next week, all of those candidacy requirements,
Right.
which is a recitation of the law.
Right.
But it goes into effect 10 days. You do a double read 10 days from.
Right. But do we need to decide what those requirements are right here today?
Well, they're all essentially laid out. But if there's,
law, right? Right. I mean, we don't have a lot of discretion. It's law.
We can't add?
I would be cautious in doing that because you might bring on and I can't think of what you would want
what
as
do you
a
consider
requirement. What would you consider?
I'm not.
Okay.
He's just Mr. I'm going to try and see.
I want
to know.
Plug up the loopholes.
He's a big.
Yeah.
Knowing what and it's because of that we feel this is appropriate to have this ordinance, so everyone has a fair shake. There are not 13 potential candidates probably in this room.
Not 13 people in there.
Well, they're not.
I would think so.
Neither of you are residents, right? So what I'm saying is we've discussed it, but it's not easy for the general Joe who goes, maybe I should, right? To know what are my requirements. And this ordinance is going to give them those requirements. Within the recitations, I will cite where the statutes are.
Okay.
But you can't pull up a case that says charter commissioner, blah, blah, blah. You can't pull up a statute or a chapter that says, because if you really want to bang your head, God, I love you guys. Your election statutes are, I don't know how you keep track, right? They're horrible to read and they're horrible to find things. And that's just in the election portion. But there are various spots of the requirements because bear in mind, your commissioners are commissioners for the body of a third class commission form of government. So they fall under those same regulations.
So there's nothing precluding any of us from serving on this commission.
Well, you got to get the votes and the 68.
No, but what I'm saying
signed. That's correct.
But
That's correct.
There's nothing within
'Cause
that
you- if
statute,
you
and
recall-
we couldn't specify.
West Plains mayor he ran for the first time as a commissioner,
Right.
and ran to be on the charter commission.
Right.
And is now the mayor. So that was his first foray into politics. So those are the things, and you probably want to start thinking as a body, as a governing body, what you can do to facilitate for those meetings. Because come the election in April, you're paying for and providing what they need for their ability to draft, assuming there is a commission. Now, the commission chooses that. They choose their meeting times, and it's, majority rule.
Okay, well,
And-
yeah, Carl. We're already working on, how we're gonna do this. Have we picked a day, for like an open house where we've got
Yeah.
the petition?
No, that's what I was at. I'm gonna put.
That's where I was going to.
Okay, but that's in a motion, and then we've got the petition that's gonna be,
Yeah.
okay, so for the petition, is there anything that's gonna be in there that we haven't already covered?
That I can think of.
Okay. So it's who, when, and qualifications.
Yeah.
Okay.
When do those petitions become available?
Well, we just talked about that, Carl. You're out of order. Okay?
I'm not the first.
No, that is true. That is true. But we just talked about that. All right? And it's that we're going to get the petitions as soon as we possibly can.
Can we do the petitions before the ordinance is passed by council?
Unless you want to specify a time in the ordinance. I am not suggesting you do that because of that 10 days.
It's better for pass the ordinance and then we have everything available.
Yep. And I would do that on the same day. I would have on the meeting date that you've set those parameters, because your parameters are the time period of when they are, that's really the only thing you are setting it to fix the reality of what it takes to have an election.
I think it makes sense for us to pass the ordinance, then we would have everything, because if the ordinance doesn't pass, it's mute that we're going to move forward, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
You guys
yeah.
could choose that you, Holly's crazy.
Yep. So.
All right. So we're looking at having a petition and requirements, and the petition is part of the ordinance. That's the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I got a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Well,
I don't have a
Carl
dog in
to
this
ask
fight,
a
but I do represent.
Gary's an elected official.
not a member of this body, you did not allow.
Well,
Mr.
you're
Norton to
right.
speak.
Okay, you're right. All right.
Not that you can change that and let each one speak if you choose. You can let each one speak if you choose.
Okay. All right. Carl, now you can speak, and then Gary will come back to you because I wasn't being fair. So, Carl, what's your question?
The petition that candidates must get signed will be available on what date? You've talked around it.
November
That-
14th.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
At 8 a.m.
Okay. Now, one of the things you're right, Carl, I didn't treat you right. If you will ask for speak instead of speaking out, it'll help me.
I tried to get the petition.
You got to speak. Okay, gotcha. All right, Gary, what you have?
My question is, I don't have a dog in this fight because I'm not but I do represent a lot of this city in my district. There's going to be people come to me and ask me this question. This is going to be the biggest question. They're going to ask, what is the advantage of what you guys are getting ready to do? And I would like to come back with an educated answer because, again, I've never dealt with the charter government before. What is the advantage whenever they ask me that question? And I'm going to have to tell them something.
Let me, Gary, I want to ask the attorney a question of what we can do. We can put together a fact sheet, right, that that would, and we're working on that, I know, that would allow
MML
us to
has a
speak.
full
Yep.
list.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
And quite frankly, if you go on NICSA's website, it talks about that. If you go to the state of Kansas passed to allow every city to be essentially a charter form of government. And so it talks about why they did that in the state of Kansas. So if you do Kansas Charter City, there's a whole page that talks about the idea is that the most close relation you have to a form of government is your city. And in that, the belief is city knows best. So for Missouri, we have it based on the size of your city for qualification as to whether or not you could be a charter form of government. And we dictate by statute what your city can and can't do and what your city can and can't decide. So it's a very limited and constricted. If the government does not by statute give you a power as a third class city, a fourth class city, that's all we have. In those two classes of city, you can't do it. Whereas a charter city can go, you know what? I think this would work. Let's give this a try. I see such and such city is doing this. And so you can change with time better as a charter form of government because that's the power of the body. This body cannot pass an ordinance without a double read, without it being voted on by roll call, and then it goes into effect 10 days in the future.
I like to think of it as it defines the what. What is our government, right? Meaning, yet you have a city council and it's constructed of this many members and this is how they will vote. It requires either just a majority vote or requires 2/3 vote. Will you have a mayor elected at large or will you have a mayor elected by the body? So it's more of those kinds of things. Now,
and will you have wards
right,
or
and,
not
and
have
will,
wards?
And once you see this bullet list of explanation, it's still going to cause a number of questions. It is not, once you read through these pros and cons, it's not going to be so intuitive that you're like, oh, okay.
But we
still
can
gonna
give you a
make
fact.
So it makes this form of government more fluid.
It's not a form of government. Again, I keep coming back to that.
I know, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry to use that.
No,
term.
I know.
But it makes
Tight.
it more fluid, where you guys can have a little bit more freedom to do the things that need to be done without having to go through.
It's not an ordinance, right? So it's not a book of ordinances. The ordinances are still separate from the charter, right? So if you think about the United States Constitution, it's very small, right? It's small in length, small in scope. It's not all the laws of the United States. So that's the difference.
Okay.
And I would encourage people to look at different charters that are out there.
Yeah. So Neosho has it. Joplin, Nevada, Carthage, Nixa. There's a lot.
There's a ton of them near the big metropolitan cities too.
But we'll get you some information.
No, I just need to be able to, there's going to be people
Yes.
ask, and I want to be able to be.
Yes.
There will.
I'm not either for nor against. To be honest with you, I have no dog in the fight, but there are going to be questions asked.
And as city staff, we can't be for or against it. We just need to give you the facts.
That's
Okay.
why I'm here.
Yep.
Well, to simplify this, we need more people than 3. Okay, that's what's going to happen automatically when the petition passes. Okay, that's going to happen. The other thing with the commission form of government from the municipal level is that the elected officials run the city, not the city administrator. Now, in practice, that's pretty much how it goes, but it doesn't always go that way. All right, so we're getting elected officials out of running the day-to-day stuff, and the city council's up here kind of steering the ship because that's the way good organizations work. So
Successful cities, you
successful
see
cities do it that way.
upper level, forward thinking, forward planning, and then the actual enactment and day-to-day making those plans happens at the professional level of your employees.
Yeah, city size Monett needs professional management, day-to-day professional management, not us.
which is a benefit to a non-professional led
But
government,
again,
and
that's the form of government and not the
yeah,
charter.
and that is the
Separate.
reason that it has a minimum number of
Right.
residents, and then that is something very important. If I am considering whether or not I want to be a commissioner, am I willing to give the time it's going to take to think those things through?
Mhm.
Is that fair?
I think it's fair. Okay, what else do we need to cover?
There's nothing else to adjourn.
Well, what do we need to cover with respect to item A?
Is there anything that you guys feel?
You're going to meet with them afterwards,
Yep.
right?
But they may have something they want everybody to know.
So are we going to see this draft prior to next week's meeting? Okay.
Kelly needs to have her stuff to us, so we can get it.
Yeah, that's
It's
kind
mostly
of like
it's
the
mostly our
finality
timeline
after
stuff.
our timeline.
So you appreciate that we're setting these rules so we don't
Absolutely.
have.
We're
Okay.
hoping it would
So it
follow the
doesn't make
candidate
Yeah.
that we wouldn't,
Because see, one of the things, the 30-day rule, voters start absentee voting 6 weeks prior to the election in February. So that 30-day rule, our ballots are already printed.
Right. And so if we didn't put that in, it would create a lawsuit, and we
Right.
don't want that. And so that's why this is very much making sure everybody understands the reality of the work it takes for an election. Those rules were created before the printing of ballots and before early voting and all of that. That's why now our system has these rigid deadlines, which still are tight.
Okay. So any other discussion that you think we ought to talk about here? Anyone else?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, we're on a compressed timeline, but it is important we get the ordinances out here so we can all read those before we go in and vote.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No, sir.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mayor Randy
Joe Coates.
Commissioner King Gaspar,
Aye.
Commissioner Darren Indovina.
All right.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thanks everyone for coming.
If you all want to stay.